Juventus used to be inevitable. From 2012 to 2020, they didn't just win Serie A, they owned it. 9 consecutive league titles. Antonio Conte built the foundation, Massimiliano Allegri refined it. They reached 2 Champions League finals in 2015 and 2017. They had the best defence in Italy, the strongest midfield structure, and an institutional mentality built on control and experience. But now, Juventus sit 5th in Serie A after 26 games with 46 points. They are 18 points behind Inter at the top. They've just humiliatingly been beaten 5-2 by Galatasaray in the Champions League playoff knockout stage first leg. They followed that with a 2-0 league defeat to Como. In their last 5 matches in all competitions, they've drawn 1 and lost 4. This isn't a minor dip. This is systemic decline. So what actually happened? The first fracture came with the Cristiano Ronaldo transfer in 2018. On the surface, it looked like the final step toward European success. Juventus spent over €100 million on a 33-year-old Ronaldo and committed to a salary reported to be around €30 million net per year. Commercially, it boosted global visibility, and on the pitch, he scored goals. But financially and structurally, it shifted the entire wage balance of the squad. Juventus's wage bill ballooned to one of the highest in Europe, while the rest of the squad aged. Instead of rejuvenating key areas, particularly midfield, resources were concentrated on one superstar. The Champions League breakthrough never came, and by the time Ronaldo left in 2021, Juventus were left with inflated wages and an unbalanced squad. Then came the financial consequences. Between 2020 and 2023, Juventus posted hundreds of millions in losses, partly due to the pandemic, but also due to aggressive spending and accounting strategies. In 2023, the club was hit with a 10-point deduction for capital gains irregularities. Their entire board resigned. The sporting project stalled while the club focused on stabilizing finances and restructuring leadership. When a club is fighting legal battles and restructuring its hierarchy, long-term sporting planning inevitably suffers. On the pitch, the managerial instability compounded the issue. After Allegri's first spell ended in 2019, Juventus cycled through Maurizio Sarri, Andrea Pirlo, then brought Allegri back. Each appointment represented a different philosophy. Sarri's positional play, Pirlo's experimental build-up system, Allegri's pragmatism. There was no continuity in squad construction to match those tactical identities. Players were signed for systems that were abandoned within a season. Instead of evolving tactically like Inter under Simone Inzaghi or Napoli during their title campaign, Juventus oscillated between styles without mastering any. Recruitment has also lacked clarity. During their dominant era, Juventus were masters of intelligent market moves. Pirlo on a free, Pogba for nothing before selling him for over €100 million, Barzagli for minimal cost, Tevez at peak value. They identified players who fit a defined structure. Post-2020, the strategy has been reactive rather than strategic. High wages, short-term signings, inconsistent development pathways. While they've brought in talented players, there hasn't been a clear tactical blueprint guiding recruitment. The result is a squad that feels assembled rather than constructed. And right now, that lack of cohesion is visible. Defensively, Juventus once built their dominance on the BBC trio, Barzagli, Bonucci, Chiellini, supported by elite organisation. Juventus, and Italian clubs in general, were renowned for their defensive structure and solidity, but today they now concede 5 goals in a Champions League knockout match to Galatasaray. That's not just a bad night, that reflects structural fragility. Not only would the old Juventus have previously smashed Galatasaray, but they wouldn't have even found themselves in the playoff stages to begin with. In Serie A, they've dropped points to teams like Como. Over the last 5 games, they've conceded repeatedly in key moments, showing lapses in concentration and organisation that were unthinkable during their dominant era. There's also a psychological shift. From 2012 to 2020, Juventus entered seasons expecting to win. Opponents approached matches against them cautiously. Now, Inter are the benchmark. Milan and Napoli are competitive and aggressive. Juventus are chasing rather than dictating. Financial constraints have also reduced their ability to attract elite, prime-age superstars. Without deep Champions League runs and with tighter budgets, Juventus are no longer automatically winning bidding wars against Premier League clubs or state-backed projects. The pull of inevitability has diminished. The league has evolved while Juventus recalibrated. Inter rebuilt with a coherent structure and stable management. Napoli modernized recruitment and tactical intensity. Milan invested in youth and identity. Juventus, meanwhile, have been navigating legal disputes, financial restructuring, managerial resets, and identity confusion. And when instability accumulates across governance, recruitment, and tactics, it eventually manifests in results. That's why Juventus in 2026 look like a shadow of their former selves. 5th in the league, 18 points off top, no win in 5, outplayed in Europe, no clear defining tactical identity, no aura of inevitability. But here's the key point. This isn't a collapse caused by one catastrophic mistake. It's the consequence of layered decisions. Short-term European ambition with Ronaldo, financial overextension, governance turmoil, managerial inconsistency, and a recruitment strategy that lacked long-term alignment. Juventus are not finished as a giant club. Yes, they are currently an unattractive club and they're in a whole heap of mess. But the infrastructure, brand and history still remain powerful. However, history alone won't bring current success. Manchester United is the perfect example of this. What brought Juventus 9 straight titles was structural clarity, tactical discipline and institutional stability. Until they rebuild those foundations, not just change coaches or tweak formations, they will remain competitive but not dominant. And for a club that once defined Italian football for nearly a decade, that might be the biggest fall of all.